Spirituality. What is spirituality? Well, quite frankly, spirituality can't be defined. Anybody that tells you that spirituality can be defined and has a definition, has a backstory, has a history, well, you know what? They're lying to you. There is no definition to spirituality. Spirituality is everything and nothing all at the same time. It is the universe. And I'm not referring to a universe that you say, oh, the universe will give me this and the universe will give me that. I'm referring to the infinite, multiple, uncountable galaxies and stars out there. The moon, the planets that we know and that we call by name and whatnot, and the world that we live in. The whole universe, everything of what we know that the universe is spirituality. It is you. You are a spiritual being. There is no ands, ifs, or buts, or two ways about it. You are a spiritual being. Spirituality is dangerous and beautiful at the same time, is noticeable and unnoticeable, I should say, at the same time. It passes by you, it greets you, it says hello to you, it says good morning to you, good evening. Spirituality is everything from the trees to the wind, to the rain, to the clouds, to the seasons and changes that take place in our life. Spirituality has no definition and cannot be defined by anyone. You are a spiritual entity. You are spirit, and God is a spirit and must be worshipped in spirit and truth. Therefore, you must recognize at some point in your life, you will recognize that you are a spiritual being and no different, but one and the same as God. Hey everybody, welcome to Tea Talk. This is Nick. Thanks for stopping by. As you saw in the beginning, then I'm going to stop saying this, but if you want to share a story, you want to do a one-on-one Zoom, no charge. There's no charge. There's no nothing. We could do a one-on-one and share your experiences, tell your stories, tell maybe a spiritual experience you had or a spiritual glimpse, or maybe even a spiritual awakening that you had and how you went through it, and you want to share it here with everyone. Please reach out to me to the email at the beginning of this video, and let's get together and talk. I want to pull up on the screen here beside me. There's no screen, but you know what I mean. I'm going to copy and paste some stuff and stick them on the frame of this recording here next to me. And I'm going to show you some definitions here of spirituality. Spirituality, according to Oxford Dictionary, says this: spirituality is the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. In quotations, it says, the shift in priorities allows us to embrace our spirituality in a more profound way. That is close, but again, cannot be defined. That is not a definition for spirituality. It does not tell you what spirituality is, where you could find it, where it belongs to, or who it belongs to, or does it belong even in the world, or does it belong to a special organization of some kind. This does not tell you what spirituality is. Again, Wikipedia also says this about spirituality: there is no single widely agreed upon definition of spirituality. Surveys of the definition of the term as used in scholarly research show a broad range of definitions with limited overlap. A survey of reviews by McCarroll, each dealing with the topic of spirituality, gave 27 explicit definitions among which there was little agreement. This causes some difficulty in trying to study spirituality systematically. It impedes both understanding and the capacity to communicate findings in a meaningful fashion. That right there is the whole truth. You can have 1,000,001 people and ask them about the definition of spirituality, and you will not find a single person that agrees on the same definition of spirituality. It is indefinable. You cannot define spirituality. Again, Wikipedia says this: In modern times, the emphasis is on subjective experience and the deepest values and meanings by which people live, incorporating personal growth or transformation, usually in a context separate from organized religious institutions. Spirituality can be defined generally as an individual's search for the ultimate or sacred meaning and purpose in life. Additionally, it can mean to seek out or to search for personal growth, religious experience, belief in a supernatural realm or afterlife, or to make sense of one's own inner dimension. Out of all that, the very last 4 or 5 words is what I truly believe spirituality is: to make sense of one's own inner dimension. That, I believe, comes very close, very, very close to defining spirituality. Now, you're also going to get the platforms that push it in order for their platform to grow. And I'm referring to church organizations and church denominations and church leaders and whatnot. And Webster's strictly takes spirituality and places it in the church and tells you that it belongs to the clergy and to the church. That is bias. That is wrong. That is false. And I think that is very misleading. It is helping an organization grow by subjecting you to their opinions and their thoughts of what they think and you should be and how you should be and how you should live according to their protocol. Webster's says this: the meaning of spirituality is something that in ecclesiastical law belongs to the church or to a cleric as such. That is a biased opinion, and honestly, more often than not, that is the definition you're going to get for spirituality. That is the definition, the backstory, and the history of spirituality, and that it belongs in a box somewhere, and you need to help grow that box and make that box larger and larger by being subjected and subjecting yourself to the opinions and protocols of another. Now, that being said, spirituality and being spiritual, can it come from church? Can it come from going to church? Yes, because no one knows what spirituality is. No one knows where it comes from. It is like the wind, and comes and goes, and it pleases. And you have an appointed time that when you are ready for it, you will have a spiritual awakening, and you will have 2 of them. And your spiritual awakening will confirm to you that everything in the world is an exploration and an experience and nothing more, and that you are greater than the protocols, the conditioning, the programming that is in place in the world. The world belief system and the historic belief systems are all pathways leading to that grand moment of awakening. And then the second coming, the second grand awakening and final awakening. These things that we are taught to believe make us and create us. And it is us all along through these structures in the world that we explore and that we experience that do create us. And we create ourselves through these conditionings and programs that are in the world in place for us. They are the false histories. They are the historic beliefs. They are the historicity, until you come to that point of spiritual awakening. And then you realize, wait a second, there is no historical this person, that person, any other person. There is no historicity with me. There is no identifiable past that I have, because the past is not relevant. The future does not exist. And all I ever really do have is the moment. Therefore, I am an immortal, eternal being, living in the moment, experiencing the moment and all of its protocols, conditions, and belief systems that are in place. But the moment that you come to this spiritual awakening, you will realize that you are a spiritual being, and that there is nothing prior to that moment that that can convince you otherwise. Up until that moment, you were convinced that you are a human being having a human experience, and then you see it. It happens for you. and you realize spirituality is a real thing. It is a transformation from the human experience to the everlasting, eternal, immortal, spiritual being that you truly are. Spirituality, as I said in the beginning, can be dangerous and can be beautiful at the same time. And more often than not, it is very, very beautiful. But we go through ugly stages of it in order to understand the beauty of it, you know? And I'll do another video where I touch upon this and I use the Bible to try and show you something that should be obvious, and yet until you see it, you don't really recognize it. But the ugliness of spirituality is that it doesn't happen to all of us. It doesn't happen as a group endeavor. It doesn't happen to 5, 10 people at the same time. Spirituality, the really one of the harshest things to really understand about spirituality is it is not a collective thing. It isn't. You can go to all the churches in the world and pretend to be the holiest person in the world, and that doesn't mean that you've had a spiritual awakening. That doesn't mean because you're church leader or you're any type of a religious sect or any type of a conceptual spiritual group endeavor does not mean that the whole group is going to wake up. Does not mean that that whole group is going to have a spiritual awakening. It is not a collective thing that happens, and that's one of the harshest things. And why I say it's harsh is because this, when you have it, you see the beauty and the glory and the wonderful blessing of spirituality. You see that you are not kind of like harnessed to this like constricted state of conditioning and programming and working your way through life according to what's been put in place on how you should live your life. You see that it is a wonderful, glorious thing, and this transformation kind of removes you and takes you out of the world. You are in the world, but you're not of the world. And it really, really is a beautiful thing when you see it. But then you want to share it with everyone. And when you share it with everyone, you're speaking in tongues. You're literally speaking English. You're making proper sentences, and everything sounds proper and coherent in the English language or whatever language you're speaking and trying to explain it. However, those people around you, like your parental figures, your social figures, your employment figures, people on the street that you may meet and you may want to share it with, they will look at you and not understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. Why do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Even because you are not hearing me? Something like that. I'll put the quote up here. It's from the New Testament. But that's exactly what happens. It's the same language. You're speaking the same language to them. You're expressing it through joy and happiness and understanding. And you're trying to make them see and maybe even trying to convert them, which you can't do. There's no one in the world, not a single spiritual guide or religious person or anyone in the world that can wake anyone up before their time. They will only see it when they're ready to see it. And each person has an internal clock for this to happen. And when that time comes, that person will see it and get it. However, you will try to share your spirituality and share your spiritual understanding with everyone, and they won't hear you. It's speaking in tongues. It's quite literally, that's what it is speaking in tongues, because you're speaking normal, just like everyone else, but they can't comprehend where you're coming from. And then therefore, the language and the words that are coming out of your mouth seem foreign and different to those listening to you. And they will knock you on your ass, and they will try and get you back grounded to what they think is grounded, where everyone is following in line according to the conditioning and the programming of the world and heading towards a meat grinder. Meanwhile, you've been pulled out of that meat grinder line and you're following the narrow path. And it's very difficult and it's very hard, but they will knock you down and they will tell you that you are wrong and they will scare you. And you may face nightmares and dreams and projections of some sort of evil and entity and Satan and whatnot. All I can tell you is you got to fight through that, but you won't through your first spiritual awakening, because the powers that be, which are your friends and yourself, more than anything, all your friends are yourself. They are reflections of you. They are really your thoughts. All right. They are, your thoughts come alive in the reflection of another person speaking to you. They are you. If you haven't had that thought, that doubt, or that fear creep into your mind, make no doubt about it, one of your friends or your parents' figures or whatever will be that thought manifested, and they will tell you that it is a terrible thing. It is the wrong way to go. It is not the right avenue to travel down. You're way off course, and they will do everything in their power, projecting all sorts of negativity towards you to get you to fall back in place. And you will in your first spiritual awakening. You will. You absolutely will. There's no two ways about it, because the first spiritual awakening is still very much a part of your logical and reasoning mind, and you're still trying to make sense of it. You feel a surge of power and amazement, and you feel wonderful and strong and powerful, but there's a happiness and a love that comes with it that is magical and is unexplainable and inexplicable, I should say, and cannot be explained, I should say, to someone who hasn't had that experience in order for them to understand. So in your first spiritual awakening, you will definitely face, whether it's their thoughts and fears, projections of your own mind, and maybe you're doing the wrong thing, or they are the reflections of yourself in others when the thoughts haven't come to your mind yet. And now they're standing before you as your mother, your father, your best friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatnot. And they're telling you that you're wrong. And they're instilling that negative energy in you. And because you're still using your logical and reasoning mind through your spiritual awakening, through your first spiritual awakening, you will you're going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of what they are saying to you. And I guarantee you, you will, in your first spiritual awakening, fall back into place and take your place in line heading towards that meat grinder. And hopefully you live long enough to have the second coming, the second spiritual awakening, which comes some 30 to 40 years after your first one. And it reminds you of everything, that glorious happiness, joyous moment, and that strength and that power that you felt in your first one, but couldn't hold on to it, couldn't really stay attached to it, and really was questioning everything that you were experiencing. And it will be magnified. Not only that, your power and your strength and not being able to be knocked off your spiritual transformation during your second spiritual awakening will be so strong that those walls and those obstacles that were before you in your first spiritual awakening, you will glide through them as the spiritual being that you truly are. So spirituality, what is spirituality, right? Spirituality cannot be defined. It's indefinable. And nobody's spiritual awakening or understanding of spirituality can convince anyone who hasn't had the experience yet of what it truly is. And as I said, trying to speak about it, you will be speaking in tongues. You will be speaking regular English or regular the language that you speak in your country, wherever you are and you have experiences. You will be speaking regular language, but they won't hear it. They won't understand it. They will mock you. They will make fun of you, and they will try, and in the first spiritual awakening, succeed at bringing you back, grounding you, bringing you back down to earth, because there's no way that you can ascend to heaven. And your spiritual awakening is that phrase in the New Testament, no one has ascended into heaven except him who has descended from heaven. That's proof right there that, again, you can't really use the Bible as say that's proof right there. But that is an understanding that you were already, and you still are already in that place of heaven, because heaven is you. Wherever you are is heaven. The kingdom of heaven is in you. It is not a place. It is not a world. It is you. It is a body. It is a physical thing. And it's filled with creative power to bring into that heaven, when you realize it, the good things that you want and the happiness and the joy and the goodness that you couldn't have in the world here as you were experiencing yourself going through the stages and states of the world. So the kingdom of heaven is a body. It is you. And when you see this, you realize that term, that no one ascended into heaven except he who descended from heaven. And he who descended from heaven had to be in heaven in order to descend from heaven. Therefore, you are still there, but you're only giving yourself this human experience. So it is God who descended from heaven to become man so that man can become God and understand that we have always been in heaven, and we are still in that place of heaven, because heaven doesn't have a definition either. But we are always in there. And I can't make you see this. Again, I'm speaking in tongues to you guys, right? I mean, you won't hear this unless you understand or you've had the experience. But you are there already. This is nothing. That's why I say death is nothing. It doesn't matter how you die. It doesn't matter what takes you out of this world, from suicide to the most horrible disease. It doesn't matter, because you are never really in the world. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. So if you've descended from heaven, then you must have been in heaven, and therefore you must still be in heaven. So you see, spirituality is hard to define. It is very hard to define. And spirituality is not religion, but it could be a portal to awakening. Absolutely. Spirituality is not witchcraft, but it could be a portal to awakening. It could also be a portal to scare you so badly that you do awaken. Because sometimes it takes a traumatic event to have a spiritual experience, or to have your first spiritual experience. And you don't know how that traumatic event is going to come about. It could be through some sort of ghost story or something like that may do it. It could be through some sort of religious ceremony, and then all of a sudden you see it and you realize that the church is wrong, but they will never accept your awakening. They're still waiting on a physical person to come into the world to awaken everyone. And it doesn't happen, as I said, as a collective. It doesn't happen. And the second coming is your second awakening. There is no one that is coming except you. You are the only person that is descending from heaven, dying off to this world, you know what I mean? And understanding your true spiritual self. And it could take, it could be through some sort of superstitious or supernatural pathway that you have a spiritual awakening. And then it could also be that this supernatural and pathway that you gave your power over to could also be what sends you running from spirituality. So you have to break through all the walls. And all of these things are not real. There is nothing real about witchcraft, magic, and spells. There is no Satan. There is no devil. There is no realm of hell or anything like that. As it says in the Psalms, if I make my bed in hell, thou art with me. If I take the wings of the eagle and fly to the ends of the earth, thou art with me. I can't get away from you, because God is with you. You are spirit. God is a spirit. And that is your spiritual awakening, to wake up and realize you are the Jesus Christ that is being spoken of. You are the Savior of the world. You are the light of the world. You are the resurrection and the life. You are God. And you are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwells in you. But you know what I mean? What I wanted to say concerning these supernatural avenues and traumatic events that could even include very much near-death experiences. Near-death experiences, if you pay attention, more often than not, are people who are having spiritual awakenings, having union with God, communion with God. And some of them have it that way, through a near-death experience. And then they come back and they share their experience and whatnot. And again, to those who can't hear them, they're speaking in tongues. But it could take anything, some sort of traumatic event in your life, some sort of loss, some sort of injury to you yourself that was life-threatening. It could be some sort of near-death experience. It could be a suicide, attempted suicide, and you have a spiritual experience through that. You know what I mean? And don't think that suicide is wrong. You have every right in the world to lay down your life and take it up again. You have every right in the world, if you feel tired or you've had enough, to exit this world. And don't let any religious people or religious teachers or religious leaders lead you astray and tell you that God has a special section, a realm that is for people who have done these horrible things. Everyone is an actor in this world, and everyone is playing their parts, and God is playing every single part in every single person. asleep to some, because we have villains and we have horrible, terrible villains in the world. But make no difference, make no mistake about it. The same spirit that is in you, that you awaken to, that is glorious and wonderful, is the same spirit in them, but is asleep. And they are the villains playing out in this play of spirituality, and experiencing the world. And really, I think that metaphor is perfect. That's the way you have to look at it. Spirituality is a play. And it is a play that has like 3 acts. And the first act is going through the world and whatnot, encountering the good, the bad, the indifferent, and in everyone and everything. The second act is waking up and realizing that you are greater than this in the world that you are. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Greater is the you that is in you than you that is in the world. And the third act is the final act, and you have your second coming, your second spiritual awakening, and you finish off life transformed as a spiritual being. So yeah, that's what I feel spirituality truly is. It is indefinable. It is everything and nothing. And I thank you for stopping by. This is Nick. This is Tea Talk. I'll see you next time.